So this article is from The Verge,
Mm-hmm.
and it reads: Vinyl records outsell CDs for the second year running. Last year's vinyl revenue in the US more than doubled the amount spent on CDs. People bought 43 million vinyl records last year,
Oh.
according to the Recording Industry Association of America, or RIAA. That's 6 million more than the number of CDs sold in 2023, marking the second time since 1987 that's happened, and reflecting the steady 17-year running growth of vinyl sales.
Mm.
Vinyl, which tends to be pricier than CDs, the newer format, an actual money made. This is worded weird. Vinyl, which tends to be pricier than the newer format, also far outstriped CDs in actual money made, ranking in 1.4 billion compared to the 537 million from CDs. The RIA's report shows that CD revenue was up too, but in terms of physical products sold, people actually bought about 700,000 fewer CDs in 2023 than the year before. If you're curious, nearly 500,000 cassettes sold last year too, according to Billboard.
Oh, do cassettes really still sell? That's so interesting. I did not know that. I guess if you can buy a cassette player, you can play a cassette, which is the same thing for all of this, right? Um,
Yeah,
but I don't hear anyone really talking about buying CDs.
no,
In fact, we spoke about how Best Buy was getting rid of all of their physical media
yeah.
um,
No, I don't need these
recently.
anymore.
So, but I do hear a lot of people saying, "Oh, I'm going to buy a record player," or "Oh, I own a record player and I'm
Right.
getting
Vinyl.
records." Yeah, I'm buying vinyl. I mean, I got vinyl for my brother for Christmas. Um, really interesting. My 12-year-old niece the other day said that she wanted a record player, which
Mm,
is fascinating to me because,
right. Who told her about that?
well, the kids are playing records. I mean, if Ariana Grande and Taylor Swift are selling vinyl, they're
Yeah,
buying it.
yeah.
So I think it's really interesting though the way like I remember having a record player at home
Hmm.
and all like the old like music from the 80s and playing that on the record player like an old I'm talking old like old reggae that my parents had on vinyl. We
Right.
had Pass the Dutchie on vinyl.
Nice.
We had the Bad album on vinyl.
Nice.
So to me, it's wild to hear a 12-year-old today say that they want a record player because I thought that era was over. I mean, I know now, like in recent years, people are into it. Hell, I've even considered buying a record player,
Mm,
um, you know, to listen to um, some of my faves on wax. But
right.
I just think it's really interesting that it's coming back. But there is this resurgence of the '90s and this resurgence of things that were old and are now new again.
Right.
So I feel like this is part of that.
Yeah. I mean, listen, vinyl has been in a huge uptick. I mean, they're saying over the last 17 years. But really, the big boom has come the last couple years. I know somebody who owns a record shop. Shout out to Brandon. And he's constantly got people coming in there. He actually makes fun of people coming in there because they come in there and ask for all type of weird new stuff, and his shop sells older music mostly.
Oh,
And so
that's
they'll come in there and be like, "Hey, you got the new Taylor Swift?" And he's like, "Man, get out my shop." And so,
yeah.
it's really interesting,
Mhm.
but it's legit. People are really buying vinyl. Vinyl is clearly on the rise more and more and more.
Yeah.
Um, what I think is interesting is that it brought up 1987, and I'm like, man, that's like the year we were born, and not only that, but that's a long ass time ago. So for this to be the second time since then,
Yeah.
wow, that speaks volumes about how much volume is being sold. Also, we know that. Excuse me. Also, I didn't know that CD sales were kind of up as well. I thought they were down, but that's interesting that this article says that. I wonder. I mean, it says RIAA said it, so I guess it's valid. But I just
Yeah.
thought that was really interesting. I wouldn't have known that. But yeah, listen, I know lots of vinyl collectors. I know lots of people who DJ and collect and sample. Whether they're a producer or a DJ, and then there's other people I know that they just have huge collections. They celebrate Vinyl Day and they go out and crate dig all the time.
Mhm.
So to me, this is not surprising at all, but it is really cool. And I think it speaks about kind of what you're saying about how things come around, right? So we know that everything old becomes new again later on, right? And so the same way now, my kid, who's about to be 14, wants to wear super baggy clothes.
That is you, and that is exactly when you said that. I immediately thought of baggy jeans, slouchy baggy jeans.
Yeah. So it's back, right? And
Oh
so
yeah,
my kid, who probably fits a medium or a large, depending on the cut of the clothing, is like, "Yeah, Dad, can you buy me like a one or two X?" And I'm like,
and
"A
you're like,
one or two
why?
X for what?" She's like, "Cause that's what I like to wear."
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
okay.
The
And
clothes are
so,
extra big, and then now retailers are just making the clothes extra big. I think I
right,
said this to you off pod one day where I was like, I can't even go shopping
it's weird.
because I tried to go shopping one day, like I needed, it was really cold and I was underdressed. And I tried to buy a hoodie. And every hoodie I picked up was way, 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 way too big. And I'm talking about sizes that I would not normally wear. And
Right.
I was like, am I shrinking or
No.
are they are they just making larger clothes? And yeah, it's true they're making larger clothes. Like if you
Mhm.
want something to fit normally, you got to size down these days because that is what
Yeah,
people
that's the
are
trend right now.
consuming. That's the trend right now,
Yeah.
and it goes right back to the 90s where everybody was in oversized clothing, or you had like the oversized bottoms and then the little crop top. Like all of that has come back. So
Yep. Yeah.
we sound old.
Mm. Hey, we said 1987, so
Right, right.
I think that says enough right there. But yeah, I
Mhm.
think it's super interesting. I think it's really cool that the kids are into vinyl. Clearly people our age, we remember it from our parents or our grandparents. And we might want vinyl because we remember it, right? It's kind of a nostalgia for us. But I think it's really interesting that even the kids now are like, oh, this is this cool, trendy thing. It's so cool and different. I got to get in on it. And so I think that's really cool and interesting. But everything comes back around, right? Like flare jeans were a big deal a couple years ago. And my dad was like, what's wrong with y'all? This is not the 70s. Why are y'all wearing flare jeans? And my sister was like, Dad, shut up. It's cool. He was like, no, it's not. It was cool in the 70s. And
Right. He was like, I don't
he looked at
understand.
me and was like, you better not get another afro. And I was like, I'm not doing any of that. I'm not the trendy dresser. I think that's pretty clear here.
He thought you were gonna be in your bell bottoms and your silky shirt
Nah,
with
I'm
your
not fly
afro.
enough. Not fly enough for any of that. I know some people who might could pull that off. You know what I'm saying? But
Hmm.
nah, not me.
Listen, we're definitely in one of those time warp, one of those time travel eras is where we are. We are
Yeah,
living
because
in that.
everything comes back around. That's what happens.
Mhm. Yeah,
So now it's time for the 80s and 90s. And it's been that way a couple years. It's just that
yeah.
now it's more mainstream because before it was kind of like if you knew that was kind of the in thing, it was like, oh, okay, so you're going to
Hmm.
wear like the starter jackets again? Like, Pele Peles are back. This is kind of weird. Why are people wearing this? But now it's like, yeah, man, this is cool. You know what I'm saying? And the prices are way up. Like before, you could just go to a thrift shop and be like, oh, I found some, starter jacket that was sitting in a Goodwill for 5 years. It's in pretty good condition. I got it. But now it's like, oh, yeah, that starter jacket is probably costing more now than it did in the 90s.
Them Levi's jeans, the ones that make your ass look boxy, expensive. Okay?
I didn't even know that existed. See, that's how out of
Oh,
touch I am.
you yeah. Like, well, now they call them like mom jeans or whatever, but if they make your butt look boxy for a lot of us gals. They just they make a nice round rotund ass look.
Why would anybody want their ass to look like a box?
I don't have
Next
an
topic.
I don't have an answer to that question. I think part of it is, and I think the reason baggy comes back around and like that sort of fit comes back around is because it's just more comfortable. And you got to remember the era we're coming out of. We're coming out of the lounge era. So athleisure was a thing before the year we never speak of anymore. Athleisure was a thing, right? And then that year happened, and then loungewear was the thing. Like everything was us wearing like our matching sweatsuits and things like that. We're transitioning out of that now, but it still has to be comfortable. That is my hunch. That's my theory that the clothes are still going to be comfortable. I think we're going to go back into the era where where the heels are really high and the clothes are a lot tighter. But for now, we're like you realize that we're transitioning out of the comfort zone, if you will, when it comes to clothing. I
Got
think
it.
that's what this is. I am not a fashion uh uh
Lies.
I'm not a fashion expert. I'm not a fashion editor. I don't make the trends or anything like that. That's just what I'm
You
guessing
are
is
you are
happening.
very tapped in. Stop it.
I no, I'm tapped in. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that I'm not, I'm not someone who lives in that world. So someone who like works in fashion or does fashion might have a different perspective on this. This is just my observation. That's it.
Got it.
I didn't get that from anywhere is what I'm saying. That's not, no, 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 that didn't come from a source or anything like that. That's all I mean.
Got you.